It's just hookup culture.
Yes,
let's get
hookup
Netflix and
culture.
chill. We all know what that means.
Yeah. By the way, in Korea, it's ramen, right? So they say, "Would you like to come over for some ramen?" Which I think is hilarious.
Court case.
Oh yes, let's get into the court case. I was going to get into it, but you were caught up in a court case, and I want to get this is a legal channel, by the way, guys. Phil, you have a very interesting story because you had a court case. Yes, legal court case. We're going to cover that. So, can you tell me how you got in trouble with the law? Can you give us that breakdown?
Okay, well, there's a couple of things. Initially, when was this? This would be in 2017, and I had a WM doll. It's admittedly, it sounds short now, but this was a normal height at 140 centimeters, 4'7" doll. Kind of had something of, like, I would say, kind of cherubic cheeks. But I'd imported the thing before, wasn't a problem. It got to the UK border and it just suddenly disappeared from the tracking. So I get onto the Chinese, can you get your shipper to track this down? And they took a while and they said, oh, it's gone. Oh, we'll send you another one. I was like, all right, okay, fine. So they sent me another one. It arrives, get it to the customer, everything's fine. Now, what had happened was UK Border Force had seized this doll and they just made the arbitrary decision that they thought it looked like a child.
Is that customs? Customs, like the customs people?
Well, I wasn't expecting any fallout from this because, like, it was my understanding at the time, if customs seize something, they have to let you know that it's been seized, which they didn't do. Now, they went and pushed this over to the National Crime Agency. Now, these are the people who usually deal with, like, illegal gun factories and people smuggling and stuff like that. So I get the Child Protection Division of this of this agency. They all turned up, tooled up, ready to raid the place. Of course, I wasn't there.
What so they had like gun. When you say tooled up, they have guns. This is the UK.
Yeah,
like,
oh yeah. So I had to outline what supposedly has happened. They said, was there anything you've done to, like, safeguard yourself as being legal? I said, oh, I forgot about this. I wrote off to the Home Office about 6 months ago to say, look, I've noticed that customs officers have been seizing these 3-foot dolls, which I stopped selling just in, because it was getting risky. So what's the threshold for, like, what constitutes a child doll and what doesn't? Mm-hmm. And they passed that over to the Ministry of Justice. About 3 weeks later, I got a response from the Ministry of Justice who said, we cannot possibly comment on a case. And I'm like, I didn't ask you about a case. I want to know what's legal and what's illegal. I'm trying not to break the law. But they were staying tight-lipped about that. Because there's not much of a likelihood of a prosecution, we're going to drop the case. But it's still on file and we could come after you later. Well, whatever. So that kind of put that one to bed, but that kind of put me on their radar. Now, later on, I order a 150 centimeter doll by Piper Dolls named Akira. This guy at Border Force, Majesty's Revenue and Customs, decides, oh, that looks like a child. I'm going to take that. Now, the illegality that they use is on the import. Because if they deem that as being obscene, whatever it happens to be,
obscene. Is that the word they use? Obscene. See, this is where
it's a 200-year-old law. And I say to the Chinese shippers, you can deliver straight through to the customer, but all of the import duties and taxes have to be billed to me because I'm the importer. We go, right, okay. So all of that comes to me, and I'm thinking, well, that makes me the importer, right? They actually went after the customer, and I can't see how legally they can do that. So what I did was I raised a court case with them to question the legality of the seizure. This is like taking 2 years to actually get to this point. Get to a court date, and we find out as we arrive at court, half an hour before the actual hearing, the local police who had been passed the doll for storage have destroyed the doll. But anyway, in all but one thing, the magistrate went with us, and it was only because the Border Force official or customs official had followed customs guidelines. That was the only reason I didn't get costs.
The government can do things that are criminal for you, which just blows my mind. Why? And once again, we've given these privileges to the governments, particularly, no offense, but in other countries where they don't have as strong written constitutions, they don't have strong protections. Not that Not that the police respect those because they piss all over those on a regular basis, but on paper, right? On paper, we're supposed to have more. There's dictatorships where you have no rights on paper, but your day-to-day freedoms are much larger because they just don't fuck with you, right? The police just don't bother you, right? It's kind of weird because there's like, okay, we've got on paper over here, unbreaded.
On paper, unbreaded.
And then we've got, actual practical day-to-day. Yes, everybody in the chat is saying unbreaded. And if you're a member, you can drop an unbreaded emoji in the chat right now. This is it. Touchdown, on paper, unbreaded.
This fight was coming to me sooner or later anyway. So
Yes.
I've been waiting for this to come along.
I'm all for the enforcement of crimes. I'm all for, let me be very fucking clear. I am all for laws that protect children, that protect actual real children. Let me be very fucking clear about that. There's no ambiguity there, right? I'm never going to be pro anything involving children. And, as people say, maps on the wall.
Do you know what the history of this law is?
What's it? No, let me know. I don't know.
It's over 200 years old. It was when the printing press really kind of kicked in, and people were starting to print hardcore pornography, and that law was put there to stop the hardcore pornography coming into the country.
I have one question. I think this is a good one. From TR Greater X, which says, this is on Locals, it said, can you ask Phil if he's ever had to decline a doll order because it looked too much like a child? Has that ever happened to you where you've declined an order?
I've had some weird ones where people have called me up, can you model a doll on sort of dimensions and stuff like that? And I said, well, yeah, I mean, I suppose if you kind of give me sort of like thigh circumference, length of arm, length of leg, I'd probably find a doll model which would be kind of similar for you. And he said, oh, I can start giving you photos. I was like, what? And he starts going on about how he's taking photos of his next door neighbor's daughter and stuff. And it's like, dude,
oh
click.
No. Yeah, and then you gotta shut that down.
It's just hookup culture.
Yes,
let's get Netflix and chill. We all know what that means.
By the way, in Korea, it's ramen, right? So they say, would you like to come over for some ramen? Which I think is hilarious. And everybody knows what that means. Like, that's well known. Like, it's like known. And we know if you ask somebody over for ramen, well, you know what's up. And you say, I want to come over for some yakisoba. And she's like, all right. And she sees the dolls on the bed. And she's like, whoa. Didn't know this was a four-way. I mean, yeah. As Divinity said, it's the wrong type of nudes. It's not the nudes you thought you were getting when you were getting there, for sure. Shout out to you guys. And shout out to Grimm's Bar, Divinity, all the small Clipper channels. I love you guys. Even when you take things out of context, and even when you face swap us with ridiculous characters, we still love you. So shout out to everybody out there. But you're just a dude who's running a website on the internet trying to sell a product. You don't have 100-person team. You don't have an unlimited budget. But you're the guy they come after. They don't come after the big companies. They don't even go near them.
Yeah, I must admit, even with that court case for the Piper doll, I don't think they thought for 1 minute that I actually had the finances to see that one through. Because I didn't think it was going to cost £40,000. I mean, translate that to about 50 grand, I suppose, USD. Anybody else who I talked to, even in the Red Pill community, was saying, no, Phil, duck out of this one. You don't want to do that one. And I thought, no, I'd rather sleep soundly with a clear conscience, to be honest, and actually fight this one. Because it's going to happen sooner or later. It might as well be done now.
Right. You might as well be the guy who stands up and fights, because somebody's got to be the guy who fights, right? Somebody's got to be the guy who stands up. And if it's like, if not me, who? Where's the next step forward? What's the next leap? And where do you see this in 10 years, maybe 20 years from now?
Well, there's a lot of talk of robots, but I'm not necessarily convinced that robots are the way to go. Because to be honest, and I'll call the doll for what it is. Some people want to call them love dolls, but they're basically sex toys or sex dolls, right? How much movement do you actually need from the limbs on a doll for to nut into the thing, basically?
Yeah.
How much do you really need? Because I get it, and it's always younger guys in their 20s. Oh, it'd be great if this thing can do all the housework and then make me a sandwich and then have sex with it. And so you're crossing over the mother bot and the girlfriend bot into one. And I hate the idea. I would hate to think that my sex bot was so busy doing the washing up that it couldn't have sex with me. I'd rather have separate robots for separate tasks. So maybe if it can do cooking food, it could probably iron your clothes as well with minimal programming, stuff like that. So the learning thing will be quite good. I've seen some good videos on artificial intelligence and how they passed the Turing test already.
Right.
So these could be quite interesting. Because
But would you want to? But would you want to fuck it? I mean, once again, like, okay, you've got the kitchen robot, but like, are you shoving a, you know, like I said, a Tenga, you know, and I can actually probably pull up a Tenga now that we're over 2 hours. So.
Strictly speaking, the female form is not ergonomically the best shape to kind of interface with the male form.
By the way, this is the. Let me just show people. This is the Tenga. You put your thing in it, right? Okay, so you know now, guys. Educational material here on Legal Mindset.
So maybe we could get an ergonomically perfect sex doll, which doesn't necessarily look that human, but is actually better than the real thing. Now, of course, that could have some consequences, though. Like if men get used to that, and then you can't go back to the real thing.
Right. Then you'll never be able to go back to the real thing. Then, you know, you're talking about population dropping off. I mean, unless that comes with, you know, something that's collecting and then IVFing. You know, I mean,
if we don't societally sort ourselves out, it's going to be neither here nor there anyway.
All right, you know, it's cocaine and sex dolls tonight, boys.